Welcome to Treat a Table. I am your host, Sarah Gollibart-Gorman. Today we're in the Explore More Discovery Kitchen in downtown Harrisonburg. Today we're making a delicious apple chicken grain bowl with a creamy maple vinaigrette. Let's get started. Today we're using EverCrisp apples from Shenandoah Valley Orchards. EverCrisp is a great apple for fresh eating, so it's perfect for a snack or in a salad like for today. If you are the lucky recipient of a 10-pound gift box from SVO, like this one right here, you can use this for all your snacking needs or for your salad. So step one is we're gonna make our creamy maple vinaigrette. The whole idea of this vinaigrette is that it is as simple and easy as possible. Because if you're like me, I'll buy a bottle of vinaigrette from the grocery store, use a little bit of it, and then leave it in the fridge for months and months and months. But actually, vinaigrette is super easy to make. It comes together in like 30 seconds and has only a couple ingredients. Another part that makes this recipe so simple is that we're using a wide mouth mason jar for mixing. That way we don't dirty a whole extra bowl and we can store it in this jar as well. So our first step is we have a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, a 1/4 cup of white wine vinaigrette. Then what's bringing our creaminess, a 1/4 cup of mayo. We also have a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. It's gonna add just a beautiful earthiness, a teaspoon of salt, and a few cracks of freshly ground black pepper. Now all that's left is put on the lid and shake your vinaigrette to blend everything. And that's it, it's done, so easy. This vinaigrette, I guess think like honey mustard with a little bit of a mapley undertone. The next step for our apple chicken grain bowl is to cook the chicken and the sweet potatoes. This recipe is fantastic for meal prep or a shared family meal. You can put it into all your little containers, stick them in the fridge, then all week long have a nourishing meal. Also, this meal hits all the major food groups. We have veggies, grains, protein, and of course our fruit, our EverCrisp apple from Shenandoah Valley Orchards. I chopped up 2 large sweet potatoes into, about 1/2 inch size cubes. So you're gonna put those on your baking sheet and spread those out because the key here is that we want everything to be crispy. And if when you're baking your root vegetables in the oven and things are too close together, they're gonna steam instead of crisp up. So make sure there is some space between the veggies on the tray. We're gonna drizzle about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil onto these potatoes. You can measure it out or you can eyeball it. You want everything to be kind of lightly coated in the olive oil, and then just toss to make sure all of the cubes have a nice olive oil layer. Then we're gonna add probably about a teaspoon of salt to these sweet potatoes. You can, again, measure it out if you want, or you can eyeball it. You just want everything to be lightly dusted with salt. And then again, with that freshly ground black pepper over top of the potatoes. These are gonna go in the oven at 450 for about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna set them aside and grab the chicken. One of the benefits of this recipe is that everything is super simple, super easy, 1 cooking time, 1 cooking temperature, everything goes in and out at the exact same time. So our chicken's gonna get the same treatment as the sweet potatoes. So a drizzle of about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. This time you can use a spatula or a spoon just to kind of combine or make sure everything is nice and coated and spread out on the tray, just like our sweet potatoes, so that everything gets nice and crispy. And then we're going to sprinkle about 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt over the chicken and also our freshly ground black pepper. So because the chicken is cubed, it's gonna cook around the same time as the sweet potatoes. If I were to put like a whole chicken breast in the oven at the same time, they would not have the same cooking times. All right, into the oven they go. Now that our chicken and sweet potatoes are nice and crisp and baked, we're gonna set them aside and make our quinoa. For our quinoa, we have 1.5 cups. I used tricolor quinoa, but feel free to use any variety that you like. I rinsed it in the sink until the water ran clear throughout, so our quinoa is nice and clean, not super starchy. We're gonna toss that into a pot on the stove and add 3 cups of water. Also add a sprinkle of salt. We're gonna bring this to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, reduce the heat to like a low simmer and cover it for about 15 minutes until all of the water has cooked into the quinoa and it's nice and fluffy. Now that our quinoa is cooked, it's time to assemble our apple kale grain bowls. We're gonna take a few tablespoons of our vinaigrette and drizzle that on the kale. We're gonna massage a bit of the vinaigrette into the kale, with clean hands of course, because this is going to make the kale nice and tender, and then just begin to really spread that creamy, mapley flavor throughout the salad. You wanna massage the kale for about 5 minutes, or until it's really deepened in color. We're using a lacinato or a dino kale here. You can also use a curly kale, whatever's best for you. And now it's time to assemble our grain bowl. I'm gonna prepare one big grain bowl to share a meal with some friends. So let's begin with our quinoa. So I'm gonna add my quinoa over on one side of the bowl, because for presentation's sake, I really want to show off each ingredient. Then I'm gonna add the kale to the other half of the bowl. So I've got kind of these two nice kind of half moons here. So now that we have half kale, half quinoa, we're gonna add our sweet potatoes first. And similar to our other ingredients, I love to just kind of gather them in one location to really just make this beautiful palette of color. And then our chicken too as well. We're gonna add that crispy chicken to its own little spot on top of the salad. Next, we're gonna place the apples on the salad. So similar to our apple butter charcuterie board, we're gonna make these little fans of apples that are going to just fit beautifully, just tucked into the rest of our ingredients. And just place those around different areas of your salad. That way when your guests go to make their plate, they can get a little bit of apple, a little bit of quinoa, a little bit of kale, sweet potato, and chicken. Now I'm gonna do a sprinkle of these roasted salted pumpkin seeds just on top of everything. Just gonna give a nice green pop and a great crunch. Then we're going to drizzle with our creamy maple vinaigrette. I'm using a spoon here because this is going to create a smaller stream than if I were to just dump it right out of the jar. I can have a lot of control over where I'm putting the vinaigrette on the salad. Our chicken apple grain bowl is complete. Let's take a little bite and see how all those flavors really go together. This crisp, juicy bite of apple balanced perfectly with the earthy kale, the earthy sweet potato, and that sweet dressing just to combine a delicious, well-balanced bite. Stay tuned for what we're cooking up next in the kitchen with Shenandoah Valley Orchards.